Chuck Connors.
He's here, Panama! Mr. Russell is here!
Ben, I'll say it again. This is something out of the past. Let it be. Let it stay there. Now, you say the word, and I'll run this Panama out of town. Let him make his reputation somewhere else, not here in Norfolk with you.
Micah, I thank you kindly. But there's no one can stop it now. Not you, not me, not even Panama. It's legal, Marshal, as you know, and fair. But as I say, I thank you kindly.
It took so long, I was beginning to think you might not get here.
I'm here, Panama.
It's Mr. Russell.
Yeah, I see. It's your game, Panama. Make your play. This is how it always ended, Mr. Claremont. One way or the other. This is how it always ended.
Was an old man, but he was too smart to get pulled into a fool play like this. What happened, Mike?
He wasn't pulled in. He walked in with the sun in his eyes.
You mean Mr. Russell wanted to die?
Mike, you didn't say that, son.
Might just as well have. That fellow and his wife you saw standing on the porch, name's Byron Claremont. He's a newspaper man from the East. Been doing special articles on the West for his paper. Some of them been printed in papers out here.
Did he write about Mr. Russell?
He wrote about a town Ben tamed when he was a U.S. Marshal. The last line of the article turned out to be Ben's obituary. Called him the fastest gun in the West.
And that was 20 years ago. Ben hasn't had a gun in his hand since he retired.
The article forgot to mention that. So along comes Panama, looking to build himself a reputation. Ben knew it had to come sooner or later. He'd made his reputation and couldn't hide from it any longer, so he went out to meet it.
As ye sow, so shall ye reap, huh? Well, we've got to get over to the blacksmith. Come on, son. See you later, Micah.
If we have to have a family quarrel, Eleanor, let's keep it in the family. The least you can do in public is smile.
Yes, Barry.
Marshal! I'd like a word with you, please. Just one moment. Eleanor, my dear?
Mr. Claremont, something I can do for you?
Yes, there's something I'd like to clear up with you. I assume that you were a witness to the shooting.
And Russell was challenged, and he accepted. There was nothing I could do but witness.
Then you must have heard the old man try to implicate me in some way, as though I were responsible for his death.
I heard.
Now, how do you account for that, Marshal?
I think you know as well as me.
You're implying that because of what I wrote about him, I made him a target for Panama Billings? Incredible. But even if it were true, I'd insist on being absolved of blame. I don't create the facts, Marshal. I merely report them.
You created a man who didn't exist anymore. You made him sound unbeatable when all he wanted to do was sit in the sun for the time that was left to him. Lucas McCain, Mr. and Mrs. Claremont.
Ma'am? Mr. Claremont.
McCain, I've heard of you. You and your rifle are supposed to be something of a legend in these parts.
That's why I mind my own business.
Meaning, of course, that I don't mind my own business. In that, Mr. McCain, you're quite wrong. My business happens to be other people. But I can see that you agree with your marshal. He seems to feel that I'm responsible morally for the death of Ben Russell.
Micah's judgment is considered pretty sound.
That may be. But however much you try to justify it, Ben Russell was a man who had outlived his time.
Mr. Claremont? My name's Panama Billions. When you write about what happened here today, you can say Ben Russell was a good man till he came up against a better one, ma'am.
Mister, when it comes to being a man, Ben Russell made two of you.
Well, now. McCain, ain't it? I hear you're a bear with that rifle, friend. Maybe you and I can have ourselves some fun. Find out what fast is.
I already know what fast is.
Bravo! Well said. As for Mr. Russell, a man who lives by the sword dies by the sword.
Mr. Claremont, if you'd taken the trouble to check, you'd know my friend had beaten his sword into a plowshare 20 years ago.
Gentlemen, I'm terribly sorry. My husband, I'm terribly sorry. Goodbye, Mr. McCain.
Mrs. Claremont?
Eleanor!
I'd sure hate to be her married to him.
So would I, Mark.
Well, come on, son. We've still got plenty to do.
All right, Eleanor, all right. I won't argue the point any further with you. But I must say it's a little tiring to have you take sides against me every time some male over 6 feet tall smiles at you. If you wanted brawn instead of brains, you should have married a fighter.
You're talking about Mr. McCain. I thought he made his point very well.
Oh, your attitude left no doubt about that. Keep it up, Eleanor. Just keep it up.
Well, Byron, I believe you're jealous. I merely meant that Mr. McCain seemed fairly articulate.
You think that I was responsible for that old fool's death, too?
I didn't say that, but what you wrote obviously had something to do with it.
Then at least I did prove that the pen is mightier than the sword.
I'm sure old Ben Russell would agree with you. Wholeheartedly. Can I help you, Paul?
Oh, no, son. This is too heavy for you. Tell you what. You run this over to Eddie at the hotel for me. Ask him to see that he gets out on the next stage, will you?
All right. Paul?
Uh-huh.
You figure he was really to blame just because he wrote that article?
Oh, Mr. Claremont? Oh, no, not just because he wrote it, son. It's in the way that he wrote it he's at fault.
Well, he told the truth, didn't he?
As it was a long time ago, not as it is today. That's the point. You see, a man who's responsible for telling the truth has to look at things as they are, not as he'd like them to be, or else he fails in his responsibilities everywhere. You understand?
I guess so.
Well, maybe you do. You run along now and don't dawdle, huh? Or else we won't finish in time to have supper at the hotel.
All right.
You're the McCain boy, ain't you? Luke McCain?
He's my pal.
Hold on, boy. I'm just curious about that daddy of yours. Him being such a fine man with a rifle and all. He is a fine man with a rifle, ain't he?
I guess so.
Now, come on, boy. You seen your daddy shoot. Is he any good?
Pa, he can't hardly hit the side off a barn.
Well, you're scared, boy. That's just fine. You go right on being scared. You tell that daddy of yours to do the same. That way, ain't none of us gonna get hurt. Mrs. Claremont. Sorry I didn't get to see that husband of yours before I left. I could have told him lots of things of yours in those newspaper stories of his.
I'm sure you could.
Well, you tell him I'll be watching for what he writes about today. And you tell him you spell Billings with 2 L's. And boy, don't you forget what I told you. Don't forget to tell your pa, too. Never mind. I'll tell him myself.
You all right, Pa?
I'm all right, son. What did he say to you?
Well, nothing.
Son?
Well, he asked me if you could use a rifle.
Yeah, and what did you tell him?
I guess I told him he couldn't.
You guess or you know, Mark?
I guess I know.
Shouldn't be too hard on him, Mr. McCain. He's got a long, long time to learn what life's all about.
Well, man, maybe if he learns about it now, he'll have a better chance to enjoy it when he grows up.
Forgive me, Mr. McCain. But you're doing a fine job is obvious.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
You just couldn't leave well enough alone, could you, Eleanor? You had to put yourself in a position to talk to McCain again.
You aren't serious.
I told you what I felt about you and your flirtations. All right, Eleanor, you just play it your way. I'll play it mine. Made a few inquiries around town this afternoon about McCain. Seems he's everything we heard about him. Sure. An interesting story.
Why, Byron? Why the inquiries?
Just curious. He's a widower. Raising the boy himself, doing a fairly good job of it, too, if you can believe the local talk. And from what I gathered, his reputation with that rifle is more than well-founded. Mr. McCain, I'm very glad to see you again. I've been wanting to explain to you about the way I acted earlier today. I was pretty upset by Ben Russell's death. It just never occurred to me that I could be responsible in any way. I hope you'll understand.
I understand, Mr. Claremont.
Won't you join us for just a bit? That's something I'd like to discuss.
Please do, just for a moment.
Well, maybe just for a minute. How about it, son?
Of course you can. Come on. Well, young man, I don't think I've ever heard your first name.
It's Mark.
He's a handsome youngster. Don't you think so, Eleanor?
No. I think we're embarrassing Mark. You don't care about being handsome, do you, Mark?
I like horses.
The non sequitur used as a defense. Very good, Mark. And I can see you're doing a fine job raising the boy, McCain.
We get along.
I'm surprised you haven't married again. Give the boy a woman's influence.
Byron?
That's all right, Mrs. Claremont. As I said, we get along. And we'll be doing just that right now. What, son?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I would have liked you to stay on and talk for quite a while about these articles I'm writing. You'd probably
Good night,
prove
Mrs. Claremont.
Why, Byron? Why?
My dear Eleanor, if I were as unhappy with you as you appear to be with me, I'd do something about it.
You're very smart, Byron. You've been very smart with me. You've surrounded me with luxury, and now I can't do without it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll go and pack. I'm looking forward to my trip to Kansas City.
I'm afraid that's a pleasure you'll have to forego momentarily. I found some additional material for my work right here. Subject, rifleman.
Claremont? This hotel. This Mr. Claremont, he lives here?
I live here.
Billy Benson. That's me. Maybe you heard. I killed Panama Billings.
No, I hadn't heard.
This here fella McCain now. Been reading in the paper what you've been writing about him. How come you write so much about him? You making him famous?
Mr. McCain is news, Billy. A rifleman faster than any known pistolman.
Pistolman? Well, how about a six-gun?
Same thing.
Well, in that case, Mr. Claremont, I'm going to be news real soon. Just as soon as I can find Mr. McCain, that is.
How do you want your name in print? Billy or William?
Well, I think I favor William a little. William Benson. That'll do fine. Come on.
Eleanor.
Saturday again, Pa, and all my chores are finished. Are we going into town now?
Well, I wasn't aiming to, son. I've still got a lot of chores to do around here myself.
Why, you said that last Saturday and the Saturday before that. We haven't been into town for 3 Saturdays.
Well, maybe next week.
It's Mrs. Claremont.
Yes, I see.
Oh, boy. Oh.
Miss McCain? I had to come out and talk to you. Have you seen these?
Rifleman unequaled in usage of firearms. Lucas McCain, unlike his predecessors, does not wield a familiar six-shooter. McCain shoots from the hip or with a rifle. Lucas McCain, the rifleman, is fast becoming a legend. His incredible...
He wrote the first one 3 weeks ago, the day you and Mark left town, and he's been writing one every day since. A man rode into town today, and he was looking for you. He called himself Billy Benson. I guess he wants his name in the papers, too.
Mark, you see that Mrs. Claremont gets back to town. When you get there, you go straight to Micah's office and wait for me, here?
All right.
Mr. McCain? Be careful. Better get your jacket.
Lucas, I want to talk to you. Make it quick, Mike. I've got something to take care of.
Well, this won't take long. Writer friend Claremont has handed you a problem. I couldn't help noticing the impression you made on Mrs. Claremont the day you met her. That wouldn't be the cause of it, would it, Lucas, boy?
I haven't been in town in 3 weeks. She just rode out to tell me what's been happening.
I guess you know if you answer to Billy Benson, you'll answer to every gun around.
And you don't want to order another coffin?
That's right. The town just got through paying Toomey for the last one. Ben Russell.
Well, I'm no Ben Russell. I've got Mark to consider. Claremont's got to be stopped.
You think killing Benson is going to stop Claremont? Well, he'll write you up bigger than ever. He'll make you so famous you won't be able to ride down the street without looking back over your shoulder.
Mikey, your judgment always was sound. All right, Billy. My name's McCain. What do you want?
Matches. I got a new one from Panama Buildings. Maybe you heard.
Yeah, I heard. And it occurs to me that a notch isn't much in the way of a marker for a man. Is that all you want left of you, Billy? A notch on the handle of somebody's gun?
There's still a lot of room left on the handle of my gun, mister. And I aim to fill it up.
Maybe so, Billy, but not with me. Watch this. That's right, Billy. I'm good with it. I hit what I shoot at, and I'm fast. But I've been hit a few times myself, and I don't like it. Also, I don't want to come dragging into town every time some young gun wants to see how good he is. So if it's all the same with you, Billy boy, this time I pass.
Did you like Mrs. Claremont?
I liked her better than I liked her husband.
I don't mean that.
Well, say what you mean.
Well, I mean, did you like her?
I said I liked her. Look, Mark, a man, especially out here, comes to expect very little that's pretty. And when he does stumble across it, he can stop to admire it for what it is. Beauty. It's like, it's like looking at a sunset or a pretty picture painting. You can admire them and appreciate them without wanting to own them.
Well, I understand that, but I can't see a woman being as pretty as a picture. Of course, now you take a horse.
Ha!
You know, I saw this horse the other day in a pasture. Come on.